Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 7 and the final part in my Halloween doll series. And in this video we're going to put the final touches on and show how to finish out this painting. If you want to follow along with traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series, where I have a list of all the paint, the canvases, and the brushes that I use. The app that we're using is Infinite Painter for Android, and we're going to try to go ahead and finish out the final details in the painting here. So I'm working on the shape of the legs and the little straps that she has. And again, I hit that bug, and you have to hit the undo button and go ahead and save and get out of the program, and then come back in and reopen it. And make sure that you have a JPEG of that stage. You have to export out your JPEGs or PNG files, and you want those as your each stage there. So here I'm working on the legs, trying to get the right look, the foreshortened look. You want to make sure that the spots are curved on the shaps to make sure that you give the foreshortened look of her legs. And so I'm just working on trying to get that look there on the shaps and working on the brown color. And I've got the shoes pretty good, the little pumpkins on the shoes. I've got them about like how I want them to be. And so I'm turning my attention now to the shaps and trying to get those looking right, and also look like there's a little bit of some wrinkles there, and there's some shadow there on the inner part of her leg. And you can use a sort of a purple color for that. And I'm also making sure that her legs don't look quite so straight, because they're not. Again, the legs are molded to look like a real person, and so she has curves to her legs there. And I'm just working on trying to show that, and trying to show the shadows on the inside of her legs, especially on the left leg there. And working a little bit on the denim part that's supposed to be the pants that are under the shaps. And so you can use white acrylic gesso with maybe a touch of dioxazine purple if you're following along traditionally, because you don't want it to be real bright. It's kind of in a shadow a little bit, because the light source is behind the doll and sort of to the right. So we want to go ahead and make sure that the clothes are not bright white, that they're kind of a darker sort of purplish color. And then again, I'm working a little bit on the wrinkles of her shirt, trying to get the highlights and the dark spots to show up there. And so I just want to go ahead and smudge those in. And if you're following along traditionally, you can use a number 3 round brush. Don't use a lot of paint, and just kind of dry brush it on. Also, you can use a paper towel or rag or something to smudge it in. And here I'm working on the digital part of the the denim part of the pants. They're kind of a darker blue. You could use ultramarine blue, throw in a little bit of some green, hooker's green, to make it look a little bit darker blue, maybe some purple. You just want kind of a darker blue look. And then here I'm working on the spots. And again, I'm trying to make them look rounded so that that shows the foreshortening of the doll's leg and shows the 1-point perspective. And so I'm trying to get that look and using the spots there. And also I wanted to smooth down a little bit the weathered wood look at the top there, and kind of smooth the lines that are in the boards. I don't want it them to go away, but I just want the smooth, a little bit of a smoother look, like the edges are not brand new and sharp. And then here I'm working a little bit on the bandana under her chin, trying to get a little bit of the shadow, show the shadow there. And also add back a little bit of the paisley pattern that's on the bandana. And you just kind of make some really light white, kind of off-white designs there that look like the paisley pattern. And you kind of want them to not look solid. You want the line to be broken. And I'm also trying to show a little bit of the wrinkles in the bandana and give it that three-dimensional look with the wrinkles there. So you'd add a little bit of some dark red to kind of get the folds of the bandana there. And you just kind of have to go around your painting at this point and work on different things. I was trying to work on the roundness of her arm, where the sleeve goes over her arm and meets at the elbow there. And again, you don't want a harsh line. You kind of just want a softened line. So I use some brown there. You can use burnt umber or burnt sienna for kind of the shadow color, and make sure that it's curved as it goes on her arm there, because we want that foreshortened look. And then we want to go ahead and sort of I outlined the little bit of her arm, but make sure that it's softened. You want to make sure that the brown is softened. And I finally got the shape of her hand right, I think, or about right anyway, close enough. And you want to kind of soften the lines in between the fingers, but don't let them all go away. You want to kind of keep that so that you can see the shape of the hands there. And then I'm just kind of zooming out, looking and seeing what I need to do here. And I decided that the Pumpkin Man, her little Pumpkin Man toy, needed a little bit of a red or orange look to it. So I went back and added some red with the reddish orange, which if you're doing traditionally cadmium orange and probably some crimson, Grumbacher crimson, or cadmium red light, put that in your orange and then add a little bit of some white, and that'll give it a more reddish orange. And that's what I was trying to do here, and add that all around on the pumpkin, and then kind of just blend it in, but let some of that original pumpkin color that I've got, that yellowy color, come through too, because it's a plush toy, and so it's got different highlights according to the way that the fur goes, or whatever, that the plush goes on it. And so different colors are going to show up. Like the yellower, it's going to be yellower on part of it, and darker red on, or darker orange on the other. So that's what I was trying to do, and also work on the features a little bit, line them up a little bit better, and the little what do you call them, Frankenstein-like scars where they sewed him up. It's kind of got those on the pumpkin. He's got kind of a Frankenstein look there, and so I'm trying to also add a little bit more of the shadow to the hat, trying to get the highlights and the shape of his little hat a little bit better, and also trying to make it stand out more against the hair of the doll, because I want those to be a contrast, not fade into each other. I want everybody to be able to see that her little pumpkin toy has a hat on it too. It has a little cowboy hat like her. And so I'm just working on the highlights of it, and then smoothing out the shadows there, and trying to get that look of the hat there, and working on the edge of it, and just trying to get the overall shape of it. And so then I was trying to look at it, and if you're following along traditionally, step back about 6 feet from your painting, look at it, see what it looks like, and then go ahead and work on it some more. And the way you do that though with digital is you shrink it down. You shrink it down and look at it, and that will give you the same kind of experience as if you stepped back from your painting. So here I was working some more on the hair, trying to get the shadows and show the curls. And again, you just have to keep working on it, back and forth on everything. This is the point now where you're trying to do the final details. So you're trying to show a little bit of some individual strands, but you don't want all of them to, you don't want to try to draw all of them, because that won't look right. So, but you want a few individual ones sticking out on the edges, and you want the pockets of dark and light to show up, and you can use the dry brush, or you can use the thin hair brush, which is actually pretty good since that's what it's for. I'm using it for the hair. So I went ahead and blended in using the blend brush set on thin hair and dry brush to try to get that look. And you can also use the Vincent brush. Those are some of the original legacy brushes that came with Infinite Painter. I'm not sure that they come with it anymore, but I think you can download them maybe from the community brushes. So you want to go ahead and use that. And I'm trying to just get the hair smoothed out right there. So I'm also trying to show little curls at the end of her hair, and on the edge there, trying to show individual strands, just trying to get the look of the hair there. And so you can use the blend brush to actually pull out individual strands. If you have it set on thin hair, whatever, it will feather things at the end. That's what you want it to do, is to kind of feather out the hair there at the end. So I added a little bit more highlights, yellow ochre there, to try to get the final highlights. I'm trying to get to the final highlights, and I want them to be kind of yellowish, so that they stand out from the hats and stuff. So I've added just thinner strokes there, and I'm still going to blend them in though. So that's what I've done, and I'm just trying to step back and see what things look like at that point and blend in the hair. I need to differentiate the hat there, bring out a highlight more so that it doesn't blend in with her hair. So I'm using kind of a really light brown and blending it in on the hat and just trying to get that shape. And also, like, the light is behind them and shining a little bit on the hat there, on the edge. So just trying to get the final highlights and the final shadows in this painting. And this painting has been a long one. It's taken a long time because it's detail. It's just like painting a person, because this is a sculpture of a person, basically a sculpture of a doll, and it's based on a realistic look and maybe even a realistic child. So it's going to be like painting a sculpture. I don't know why I thought that it was going to be simple or easy, because it wasn't. It was certainly just like doing a portrait. So if you think, oh, well, it's easy to do a doll, no, it's just like doing a portrait if you're going to do an actual realistic, realism for the doll. Okay, now I had to cough. My allergies are killing me, and I had to take a cough break, but anyway. So, anyhow, I'm just trying to go ahead and add the final highlights on the hat and get the final highlights on the hair and make sure that I have the correct hat shape. And I finally was getting it, so that was good. That it just finally takes a while, but you just have to keep going and just keep adding pockets of dark and light till you finally get the shape that you want. And so I finally did on the hat, and then I was still working on the hair a little bit and trying to get that, make the strands show out, but keep the highlights. And I darkened the back of the hat a little bit so that it would stand out more against her hair. Because I wanted them to be different colors. I like all the shades of brown, but you have to be careful when you have shades of green or shades of brown that they don't all blend together. You have to add highlights for that, or you have to just make things look darker and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I had to do, because I was trying to keep them separate. So sometimes you have to make redder browns or yellower browns. It's just all in what different colors that you add together. So that's what I was doing. I was working on the little pumpkin boy, trying to get some of the seams that show up on him, and also the little shadows where his arms and legs attach onto him, and the shape of his arms, trying to get that correct, and trying to show the highlight on the left edge there where the light's hitting him, and some of the darker shadows under his chin. So I was trying to do, trying to make him pop out a little bit more. And then here I was trying to work on the fringe a little bit, and also the weathered wood on the old porch, trying to kind of get the edge of it to look kind of straight there, and the cracks on the board. Was trying to get those once again in the right 1-point perspective there. So I was using the the grid, the 1-point perspective grid, and smoothing out the dark lines, just trying to get the edges of old weathered boards and get that look going. So I was also trying to put some texture on the boards, make them look like they've got grain on them and not holes and things like that. And so then I wanted to work a little bit on the background and try to smudge it out, add a little bit more orange to it, and not make it look so white, so that she, at least her arm and stuff, shows up better. So I wanted to put some more orange in the background, and I was using some of the watercolor brushes and then just kind of smudging them out with the cloudy brush to try to get that look that there's a bunch of trees behind her on the porch. So that's why you want to keep the layers of the background separate. And so I was working on that, and again trying to get the boards in 1-point perspective. You have to keep working on that. Make sure that you keep them in the correct angle or whatever of the boards, and try to. I was using the lines tool in Infinite Painter. You can use to make a straight line, and it's got like a dot on each end, and you can anchor one dot on a part and then swing the other one out and move it. And so that's one of the tools that I use in Infinite Painter. If you're following on traditionally, you use like a ruler or something. That's kind of takes the place of the ruler, is that little line tool, and it's very handy. And there's also one that you can use to that you can draw the lines using the perspective grid as well too. So there's several little tools in there for making angles and straight lines in Infinite Painter. So that's really handy. And then here I was working on the leaves and putting some of the branches back. Wanted a darker brown for the branches so that it would go around the edge of the painting, and that just kind of frames the doll and pushes the viewer's eye more onto the doll. And so I was trying to do that and add a little bit more color into the background, like there's some tree stumps in the back, or there's distant trees in the back, tree trunks. That's what I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for is tree trunks. Tree trunks in the back there with a little bit of darker brown. I wanted it to give it just a little bit of depth there and make it look like she's on the porch. That's the whole idea, is to try to look like she's on that old weathered wood porch. And so I'm working a little bit more on the edge of her clothes, her chaps, and trying to get them to look rounded and add a little bit of some shadow underneath the fringe there. Just trying to get all that added there. And using the sprayer, I was using the cloudy spray for adding a little bit of shadows underneath her leg. Here I'm working on the edge of the boards, and I'm trying to get a little bit of the texture now. Trying to add texture to the old weathered wood boards and add some knot holes and just get kind of the look. Now that maybe I've got the right angle, I was trying to add a little bit more texture and trying to give it wood grain look. And so I was drawing lines and then smudging them so that, and using old oil or varnished oil, something that would give it kind of a rough texture there. And then kind of smudging them in, but not destroying all the textured look. And then I was trying to get the edge of the porch straight. So I drew a line across in a separate layer where then I could erase it, but keep the line of the porch on that layer. And so the line that went across the doll, I could go ahead and erase that. And so that's what I did there. And these are just the final details, the final things that you do to try to get the last stuff that you want in your painting. And so this is why I said save each stage of your painting, because when I exported this out and put it on a flash drive, I lost the last 5 recordings of this that I had made. But I still had these pictures. And so what I did is I added shadow underneath the doll, and I worked on the shafts and got those straightened out. And I put more highlights on the little pumpkin man and some shadows underneath her feet, and kind of erased some of the other shadows. And then I worked on the background, and I smudged in the leaves, and then I went ahead and worked on the shape of the leaves at the bottom, and I added a little bit more detail to the leaves with a dark umber color to make it show the twigs. And I just I worked a little bit more on her hair, and excuse me, the allergies are killing me. Worked on her hair and went ahead and smoothed it in, and just added some final highlights to the pumpkin and also to her shoes and on her hands, and just tried to go ahead and add the final details. But that's what happens. That's why you have to export on each stage, because something like this will happen and you will lose your work unless you have exported it out. And so I did. So I managed to have several stages that I could show you the final changes that I did and how I finished up on this doll. Otherwise, because I lost all that footage because it got corrupted when I transferred it to a flash drive. So that's what you have to do. So that's the end of my Halloween doll series, and it took a little while, but I got it done, and I think it turned out fairly nice, and it looks like she's in an autumn scene anyway. So stay tuned for a new video coming fairly soon, and thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.